The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Improper, deplorable, and alarming. This is how the Integrated Bar of the Philippines describes the letter from Calbayog Police, which asked a trial court for the names of lawyers representing supposed communist terrorist group or CTG personalities. IBP stands firm. Lawyers must be able to do their sworn duties without threats, harassment, intimidation, or retribution. The Law Association also calls on government authorities to thoroughly probe the matter to exact accountability. This letter, signed by Police Lieutenant Fernando Calabria, made the rounds on social media Friday. The letter included an attachment to be filled out with details such as names of the lawyer and his or her client and mode of neutralization. PNP officer in charge Lieutenant General Guillermo Elizar has already ordered the relief of Calabria. The National Union of People's Lawyers also slammed the PNP for requesting the list of lawyers who represented, quote, communist terrorist group personalities. NUPL called the PNP out as, quote, primary violence workers in this murderous regime. NUPL condemns the profiling of lawyers, calling it a barefaced disregard of the PNP for human rights and an affront not only to administration of justice, but also to lawyers' rights and duty to exercise their profession without fear. The group also maintains that lawyers must not be identified with their clients or their clients' causes, and that this is persecution must not be tolerated. NUPL calls for more safety measures to ensure lawyers' performance of professional duties without intimidation or improper interference, and demands the PNP to stop harassing lawyers whether for CTG or not. To help us understand the matter even more, we have with us FEU Law Dean Sta via StreamYard. Dean, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
All good, sir. First of all, just how wrong of a move was it to try to profile lawyers, especially based on who represent and the case that they are handling, sir?
Well, it's disgusting, obviously. There is total ignorance as to what a lawyer's profession is all about. You know, a lawyer is an advocate. He represents, he takes sides. There is a plaintiff, there is a defendant. There is a people of the Philippines, there is an accused. It is the duty of a lawyer to represent anybody who comes before him and asks for help. Even though he is a criminal, because even if he were a criminal, at least a lawyer could assure that the right due process shall be undertaken in the prosecution. He may be guilty. A lawyer could advise him to just plead guilty. A lawyer could even make sure, as I have said, that all the proper steps are taken towards decision. And that's number one. And number two, a lawyer is an officer of the court. As a matter of fact, if I were the judge who received that letter, I would ask that policeman or that officer to explain why he should not be cited for contempt. Because it is clear interference in the administration of justice. It has a chilling effect. Lawyers, for example, will be inhibited or will be restrained from doing their vocation and their duty to the country and to society. Remember, lawyer deals with law and lawyers deal with justice. And without them, the administration of justice will be for naught, will be nothing. So that's how wrong it is.
Dean, if the PNP had succeeded in obtaining that said list, how dangerous would it have been?
Well, it will be very, very dangerous. As I have said, there will be a chilling effect. There will be an undue self-restraint on some lawyers not to represent for fear that they may be red-tagged on the mere basis of association or having a client who has not yet even been convicted by the court. Remember that. He is just asking for a list of lawyers who have pending cases, I believe. And remember, a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. It is so presumptuous, it is so dangerous, and it will really hinder the administration of justice. As a matter of fact, as I've said, it is really contemptuous to the dignity of the court and not only of lawyers. No? And the Constitution provides that a person is entitled to due process. A person has the right against self-incrimination. And also, we have the data privacy law. The data, personal information of people cannot just be shown to anybody. And if the court had the court allowed that, it might have made the court a part of a violation of the Data Privacy Act.
Sir, other than those, what do you think are other effects of things like these in the legal profession?
Well, as I have said, no, the legal you look at the newspaper, and all news, crimes, international law, issues on government, even some entertainment, will have a law associated with that particular news. And you could see the pervasiveness of the law when you talk about society. And when you talk about the law, you necessarily talk about lawyers. Our president is a lawyer. And when you talk about inhibiting the power or the dignity or the vocation of lawyers because of this letter, a mere letter which appears to really what should I say, fish for evidence. This is already a fishing expedition. Then that's too bad. If they can do it to a lawyer, how much can ordinary people feel secure in their homes, in their personal life?
Sir, so what do you tell lawyers? What do they do if they are falsely tagged as terrorists?
Okay, they go to court. Okay, they go to court, and number one, they file a petition for the issuance of the writ of habeas data. You know what that writ is all about? It is a writ where the court will command that personnel in the military or anybody to show to this complainant the source of the tagging, the list, the information, because of a writ of habeas data tells a person either to erase the information, modify the information, or if the complainant says it's okay, then maintain the information. That's the privilege of the writ. So I think all lawyers know that. No, that's one remedy. And of course, you have all those cases in the revised penal code. We have a crime called intriguing against honor. And when you say something and it turns out to be false, that's not only libelous or slanderous, but it is intriguing against your very honor, which is also punishable by law.
Sir, in light of this event generally, how would you describe, how safe is it to be practicing law in the Philippines?
Well, lawyering has its hazards, definitely. But with that, if that pushed through, it would have exponentially increased the hazard. Now, lawyers are afraid to be hit back by criminals. Now they are afraid to be hit back by persons in government. They get me? They are now being attacked from all sides. It is bad enough for people who don't like lawyers and they belong to the criminal side, and it is worse for people who ought to implement the law, enforcers of the law, to be against lawyers.
Sir, what are the possible legal actions against former Police Lieutenant Fernando Calabria aside from being relieved from duty?
Well, okay, that one we have to calibrate. Now, you see, this is the lawyer in me. I don't want to be presumptuous. You have to look at all the circumstances leading to that letter. Was he pressured? Is it on his own volition? Was there a directive? So we have to know all that because maybe he had no choice because he was being ordered from above, or he had a choice and he did it by himself. So was anybody affected already? If a person is duly prejudiced by that letter, a criminal case can be filed, but I doubt whether it has affected because the judge was reported to have not acceded to the request. So it's a good thing it was halted.
Well, we learned so much from you today, sir. Maraming salamat. Thank you. That was Dean Mel Santamaria of FEU Law. And we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Due to increased transmissions, the city government of Makati has imposed a localized enhanced community quarantine on 2 zones of Barangay Pio del Pilar. The lockdown started at midnight, March 13, and will end on Tuesday, March 16. Residents are prohibited from going out, and businesses and establishments are not allowed to open. Violators will face a fine of 5,000 pesos and 1 year imprisonment. The city government will also conduct house-to-house swab tests. In Zone 1, the streets on lockdown are Mayor to M. Reyes Streets and Coanco to Arguelles Streets and Jerry Street. In Zone 2, the lockdowns are in Evangelista, A. Apolinario, Arguelles, and Calhoun Street. Now, more areas in Quezon City and Muntinlupa were also placed under lockdown. In Quezon City, 5 more areas were placed under special concern lockdown, bringing the total to 21. The city government clarified that the lockdowns only cover small areas and not the entire barangays. All households under lockdown will undergo testing and will not be allowed to leave their homes for 14 days. QC will also provide food and other supplies to the affected families. In Muntinlupa, Crucero Street in Villa Carolina 1, Barangay Tunasan, and 124 Purok 1 in Barangay Putatan have been placed under a 15-day localized community quarantine. The 2 areas became areas of concern after recording a high attack rate of 150 cases per 1,000 individual population in a week. The city government will also conduct a mass testing in these areas. A former House leader is pushing for a 3rd round of cash aid for poor families due to the continuous economic impact of the pandemic. Former House Deputy Speaker El Rey Villafuerte cited the need for a 3rd Special Amelioration Program or SAP as the country continues to deal with high unemployment and faster inflation. This time, Villafuerte is calling for a higher subsidy of 10,000 pesos per beneficiary through the Bangon Pamilyang Pilipino Assistance Program. He believes that the BPP program would help address the rising poverty incidence in the country. The lawmaker said that funds for the program are available under unutilized appropriations and unobligated funds in the national budget. FDA confirms Russia's Gamaleya Research Institute has completed its Sputnik V application requirements for emergency use in the Philippines. Director General Eric Domingo says a team will fly to Russia next week to inspect Sputnik's manufacturing site. But FDA Deputy Director General for Field Operations, Dr. Oscar Gutierrez Jr. says they will still discuss tomorrow if an inspection is needed since Gamalaya had already sent the needed certificates and other vaccine manufacturers were not inspected as well. According to a study, Sputnik V is 91.6% effective against COVID-19. The government is planning to buy 20 million doses of the vaccine. The Armed Forces of the Philippines has signed a memorandum of agreement with the Commission on Human Rights to foster close coordination and address gaps in the human rights situation in the country. Under the agreement, the AFP and CHR will work together for human rights education, training, and advocacy. Both agencies also committed to collaborate in improving monitoring mechanisms and data sharing of cases of human rights violations. It also agreed to participate in LGUs, discussions, and other forms of engagement over human rights issues. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.